Yo, what's good with y'all, man? So, I got another book review for you guys today. Bro, I read this book probably like 4 months ago, and it's just been sitting on my desk. It's been bothering me, so I was like, okay, just let me get it out the way. Anyway, it's called The Failures of Integration, How Race and Class Are Undermining the American Dream by Cheryl Cashin. I think that's what her name is. So a little disclaimer. Basically, I got this book. Like, this book was not what I thought it was going to be about. Like, I thought the book was going to be about, like, the positives of segregation, I guess. I know that might sound crazy to a lot of people, but, yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be about. But it's basically about, like, the typical why, it's more about why white people, so-called white people, how they still have like racist views and how they're basically preventing us. It's like a liberal book, honestly. I guess it's the short version of it, but it was still cool. There were some good points in it. I don't think this video is gonna be too long because, like I said, it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. It's kind of long too, but it was decent, And there were a lot of she had like a lot of case studies and like interviews with people who were in her immediate circle that interested me. You see, I didn't highlight a lot in this book because it's like I said, it's kind of the common. It preaches a lot of the common rhetoric that we hear that we all need to come together and kumbaya and all hold hands to achieve the American dream. But in my view, that's not realistic. People are naturally inclined to want to be with themselves. So instead of trying to force our way into, white people or anybody else's society, we should be focusing on building our own things. That's not to say that like it's like slavery or Jim Crow where like, oh, you can't come in here, you can't, like, no, obviously we could still have interactions, but I think we should be focusing more on our own communities, rebuilding the hoods, talking to our own people instead of screaming at white people, about critical race theory and Black Lives Matter, right? That's just how I think. But here's a good quote. So it says 60% of whites and 62% of blacks chose equal opportunity over the 5% and 6% respectively who chose integration. So basically what this part of the book was talking about, it was talking about the separatist ideology, right? So the book it essentially stated that most black people and white people, definitely, really all races, but even most black people are separatists. They don't necessarily want to be integrated in white society. They don't want to have like a diverse workplace and to live next to a whole bunch of white people or in a multicultural background. They really just want equal opportunities. And that's what this statistic showed, that most white and black people both they're separatists, which I think is fine. Like, I do not think that's a problem. Like, I think that's actually good. That's what our people talk about, like Black Wall Street, and they celebrate HBCUs and things like that. Like, those are separatist environments. HBCUs is mostly black people. And then these same people will be talking about how, oh, white people need to do this for us and need to do that for us. Like, no, we should be focusing on establishing more schools like Morehouse and Spelman and Howard, NCAT, TSU. And like I said, building businesses and infrastructure in our own community without destroying our own stuff, robbing each other and breaking each other's houses and buildings and things like that. Our people have so many problems, and we always try to put the blame on white people, which is why I wanted to get a book that shows that like segregation is better, because instead, like, that idea or ideology of like white guilt and critical race theory, it's somewhat of a scapegoat. It's a way for our people to embrace a victimhood mindset and to shift blame on other people, instead of looking at ourselves in the mirror and being like, yeah, this probably I'm not doing what I need to do to live a successful life. So let me change that. But instead we're like, oh, my life isn't successful it's slavery's fault. White people are terrible. Here's a great quote from Natalie Hopkinson, who's an African American journalist. She says, "In the small act of choosing to buy our home where we did, I believe that we became part of a growing group of African Americans who are picking up where the civil rights movement left off. From our perspective, integration is overrated. It's time to reverse an earlier generation's hopeful migration into white communities and attend to some unfinished business in the hood." Like I just told you guys, y'all worried about integrating with white people and making sure these white people accepted you instead of looking at your brothers and sisters who are out here, you know, struggling, not living right. We need to address those problems instead of trying to run away. That was a great quote. Let me read that again. That was great. "In the small act of choosing to buy our home where we did, I believe that we became part of a growing group of African Americans who are picking up where the civil rights movement left off. From our perspective, integration is overrated. It's time to reverse an earlier generation's hopeful migration into white communities and attend to some unfinished business in the hood." I'm going to do an article about Martin Luther King because he's such a... I don't even want to get into that in this video. I want to release the article first because I know so many people are going to be mad when I when I drop that. But yeah, that whole ideology that was present in the civil rights movement, that I have a dream that we're all going to be together. Like, no, bro, we need to... No, I disagree. I disagree with your dream. I don't like your dream. Like both my parents, I was an honor student who worked hard but also played hard and mastered the fundamentals of both Black and mainstream culture in a way that enabled me to relate to many different social groups. So I feel like me and a lot of y'all that are on this channel, so-called Black people, especially Black men that are on that channel, we all fit into that archetype of, you know, we were probably smart, you know, you were an honor student, you know, you got good grades, you weren't doing too much crazy stuff. You know, I've done my crazy stuff in my day, but you know, you might be a nerd, you know, you might like anime and Star Wars, things like that, but you also, you know, like, you know how to be around your people, you know how to talk, you know how to walk, you know what to wear. Got on my tech fit, got on the Dewey, you know, like, yeah, you got the big brr in the ears. You know what I mean? Like, you're multifaceted. You don't fit into a box, you know. A lot of people in our community, they have this binary mindset that either you are an Oreo, like a Black person that's trying to be white, or you are a thug or a hood rat. And that's not binary. Anything that's really binary is most of the time wrong, but most of us don't fit into that category. And I really learned that at Morehouse, man. I done seen some dudes you would never expect. These dudes got face tattoos and they like write poetry and stuff. I promise y'all. So I like that. I like that description, that kind of duality. And you don't have to pick sides, you know, you don't have to you know, be one or the other. You are you. You know, like I'm Chance. Chance, you know, likes nerdy things like Star Wars and video games and Sly Cooper. But, you know, I like Jordans too. I like nice clothes, you know. I like going to parties every once in a while. And it got to be with the right people. But, you know, I go to a little party. The book also talked a lot about so it talked about various cities and suburbs that have like a high concentration of successful Black people, and it mentions Cleveland. I mean, not Cleveland. It mentioned Cleveland Heights and Shaker. So if y'all from Cleveland like me, it's just, you know, whenever I see somebody shout out Cleveland or anywhere in Cleveland, it brings a smile to my face, you know? So shout out to Cleveland, man. Oh, wait. Yeah, you're not here. You're not gonna understand that if you're not from Ohio. It's an inside joke, y'all. I'm sorry. It's a knife. I'm trying to get to the part where it talks about Euclid in here too. Man, Euclid. I don't like Euclid. It talks about a lot of Ohio cities in here. So I really like that. I really like that. Not even Ohio, Cleveland. Specifically Cleveland cities and suburbs. According to historian Ronald H. Bayer, highways and roads in the Atlanta region were planned and built to sustain racial ghettos and control black migration. That is something that they've done, not just with black people, but really with like people who they see as degenerates. A lot of the highways that they built throughout the early 1900s, like the 30s, 40s, 50s, they were purposefully built to go through neighborhoods and basically to displace those people and force them into essentially communes, you know? Like honestly, those huge like apartment complexes, like, you know, like the real big, like not a skyscraper per se, but like those real big apartment complexes, like I really think that those are like communes. Like it's crazy. But yeah, the government does do that. They have very deceitful and frankly evil ways of getting what they want and attempting to destroy people in a way that a lot of times seems good. Like a lot of people be like, oh, we're building this new highway, you're gonna get, you know, from A to B faster, and you know, it's gonna create jobs for people that build the highway, and then they don't mention that, oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna destroy 50 neighborhoods. But you know, that was interesting. I might do an article about that. David Dent, writing for the New York Times, states that black people should be aiming for the ability to control our own destiny. I completely agree. Instead of crying about slavery and white people and reparations. Bro, that's not P whatsoever. Talking about pushing P. You not pushing P, bruh. In truth, most upper income black people are just as uncomfortable living in close proximity to their low income brethren as are white folks and indeed everyone else in America. They refer to them as the black bourgeois. And I think that definitely is true. And as someone who was like grew up in like a bad environment per se, like, or a bad neighborhood, I don't really want to live around those people either, honestly. But that's why, like, I'm not gonna completely ignore them and just sweep them under the rug and act like they don't exist or act like they're terrible people. But you know, my house got broken into multiple times. Like, I live by a park. People get shot every weekend. You know, like, people who really come from those environments, and a lot of people who talk, like, about this, like, that push these liberal ideologies, they don't really know what it's like in these neighborhoods. If you really lived in the hood, I promise you, bro, you would not want to go back. That's how you can tell when people are really, like, about what they say they about. People grew up in the suburbs. People grew up in Solon and Pepper Pike. Bruh. How would you feel if your house got ran in, bro? cousin got shot at the park or something like that. They sit outside at night playing their radios loudly, continuing off of why, you know, upper class black people and other black people don't want to live around those, you know, the ghetto black people. I experienced that in Atlanta, bro. I had an Airbnb, and my neighbor, yo, they would be blasting music at like 8, 9. Y'all know me, I be trying to read. Like, it didn't happen a lot though. It happened like maybe a couple days, you know. But I promise you, there was one day I was very close to going over there, you know, starting something that probably would have ended that. But yeah, I completely understand why you know, people don't want to be around our people. You know, our people make bad decisions. Our people do degenerate and ghetto things. And instead of looking themselves in the mirror, like I said, and saying like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this. Hey, maybe I should act differently. They try to blame everybody else. They try to say, oh, it's the white people's fault. It's y'all dudes bougie. You forgot where you came from. You forgot about the hood. Like, bruh, you're not making it viable for me to stay in the hood. You're ruining it. You're making me, you make it unsafe and uncomfortable and dirty. I don't want to be there. All the black professionals I know are either homeschooling their children or they have them in private schools. Lord willing, I'm definitely gonna homeschool my kids, especially now when they're teaching kids in school. I know y'all been seeing all that stuff, you know, like I said, about the critical race theory and about like the LGBTQT corn stuff that they're pushing in school. Like, bro, it's man. Blacks are no longer forced to depend upon one another, and interdependence was the key to the viability of black communities in the era of Jim Crow. Instead of looking at each other, instead of trying to help each other, you know, we look to white people and other groups who don't have our best interests at heart. Not even that, it's just like they don't have as much of a responsibility for us, and they shouldn't. African Americans have failed to form a strong community bond and to mobilize politically to force change in schools, government, and services. I talked about that in my article about how black is not a race, because since black is not a race, right, our people have no culture. Our people have no sense of communal bonds, which is why these things happen to us. Why it's so hard for us to care about each other and to, you know, want to build businesses or to want to come together in regards to certain issues, because we don't have a culture. Like, black is a color. Black is a color. Black is not a race. Black is not a culture. It is a culture, but it's a degenerate culture. That's why everybody has different ideologies. That's why everybody is shiesty. Everybody doing whatever they can to get over on whoever they can. Like, I said that in the article. My mentor, one of my mentors, that talked to me about that, about how as long as we continue to embrace that term, our people will never be in a state of rulership. We'll continuously be in a state of victimhood and servitude. You know, service to our lusts, service to the powers that be, service to, you know, the demonic energy that is so pervasive in our world. We're almost done, y'all. This will be one of my shorter ones. Oh, we're only at 19 minutes. It's not that long. Remember the last one I did was like an hour. My book reviews usually be like an hour, y'all. I'm sorry. I might change the format a little bit. But like I said, this one, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since I read the book. And like I said, I didn't really take a lot of notes because I just, I didn't find that much that I felt was worth Internalizing. The cost of the ghetto. This chapter basically talks about the cost of the ghetto. I'm looking at this line right now. It says that drug trafficking in turn brings in people attracted to lawlessness and violence, which is true. And look, I'm not saying like it's all our fault. The powers that be, the government, has definitely heavily handicapped and hamstrung our community. Y'all know they push guns and drugs in our community, especially in the. I know y'all probably watch shows like Snowfall, and I forget that show that's on maybe Peacock about Big Meech. But you know, they push all that stuff in our community, and it does attract people who are, you know, godless and are attracted to lawlessness and violence. But you know, that's why it's important for us, the affluent or the educated and enlightened black people per se, to not seek after the white man's approval, but to go and talk to our brothers, but to go show them that, like, hey, you can do this. You could be an engineer. You could be an author. You could be a painter. And actually provide resources for them, you know? That doesn't have to be, I'm not saying you got to, like, start a school or start a missionary, but, you know, like, take somebody under your wing. You know, text them occasionally, be like, hey, you need anything? We can go get some food. Stuff like that, you know? And I'm doing my part, so don't worry about me. You worry about yourself. And if everybody did just one little thing at a time, then our people will be in a much popular or a much more affluent position. Ghetto culture has permeated American popular culture. Wiggers. Wiggers. Those are like, okay, so a wigger is basically like I'm trying to think of like a Jack Harlow, right? Or like an Eminem. You know, like, that's like, you know, those white people who think that they're black. I just thought that that was a funny word. I don't really have, you know, too much commentary on it. I met a lot of those guys. I met a lot of those dudes when I was in high school. Dudes be coming to school in Supreme and Jordans. You know, like, it's funny. If y'all went to school in the suburbs, or if you went to, I mean, really anywhere. If you went to any, like diverse school, right, you see that all the time. It's funny to me. But once again, like, black is like an idea. It's not it is somewhat of a culture, but like I said, it's a degenerate culture. So it's not like solely assigned to us. Like, being black is like making the worst possible decision in every circumstance. I know people gonna be so mad at me, but if you've been on my channel for long enough, and if you read specifically that article that black is not a race, and you understand that race is not based on skin tone, but it's based on history, tradition, and a common code of ethics, then you will understand how black is not a culture or race. It's a color. Sacrificing our opinions sometimes to the opinions of others for the sake of harmony. I feel like we all do that at times. Definitely trying to be better in terms of that, but you know, it's very hard, you know, to be strong and to be a leader, especially when you're saying things that you know that a lot of people probably aren't ready to receive, or that they won't like, or that doesn't align with the political agendas of not only today, but these agendas have been going on for decades. The conservative camp is more populated with whites and wealth, and the liberal camp is infinitely more diverse racially, if not economically. I know we all grew up just like, even as a kid, you had this understanding that like black people are Democrats and racist white people are Republicans. That is the like that's literally like the most basic way, and nobody like people won't say that, but that's literally how 80-90% of the people in our community think, and that's not true. I'm not political, but if I were political, I would definitely lean more towards the Republican side than the Democrat side. Um, but yeah, Democrats are terrible. I'll probably write an article about them at some point. We're almost done, y'all. It provided a lot of examples of like racial incidents, especially in regards to housing. Like it told about a couple examples where like a black family will call in to the landlord and be like, hey, is this house still available? And he would be like, yeah. And they would come in and he would see that they're black, and then they would leave and he'd be like, oh, I'll call you. And then they would find out a couple weeks later that the house had actually sold to a white couple or an Asian couple, and sometimes even for less money. So all of those incidents are definitely like, bro, look, like before y'all like get mad at me and try to crucify me, if y'all like, you know, I don't really know who's watching these videos, but I'm not saying that racism doesn't or didn't exist, but us, that should not be our focus. Our focus shouldn't be on how other people view us or how other people feel about us. Our focus should be on how we feel. I'm done. Our focus should be on how we feel about ourselves. You know, our people have low self-esteem, and that's reflected in our community about how we act, how we treat each other. You know, y'all will be all out and about talking about Black Lives Matter when a white man kills us, so-called white man, but you know, when Tyrone shoot Pookie up the block, y'all talk about, hey, free Tyrone. Yeah, like, yeah, it's not that, no, like y'all have no self-respect. Y'all have no love for yourself or love for your brothers. You know, and honestly, a lot of people who suffer from addictions, that's like the main point of addiction. You know, that's why so many people in our community especially are addicted to various substances, because you have a poor self-image. And really addictions, whatever it is, it's essentially like slow suicide. You know, like people that are addicted to crack or, you know, are alcoholics, like, you know that you're killing yourself. Like deep inside, you know, everybody knows. I don't care how stupid you are, like how uneducated you are, you know, like this is common sense. But anyway, yeah. So like I said, the book, it wasn't bad. It just, I don't align with her views on what's best for our people. You know, she spent a lot of the book basically trying to rally against the separatist mindset that certain black people have, and I don't think that so basically her idea is that we basically need to convince white people to, you know, be more inclusive by showing them, you know, the various statistics and examples that she provided throughout the book. So she's like, hey, if we just tell them, we show them this irrefutable evidence, then that will lead to better outcomes for us. I disagree. Like, if people don't like you, and it's not even saying that white people don't like us, but like if people don't, like, people are never gonna willingly give up their power. They don't care how good your argument is. They don't care how oppressed you think you are, bro. Like, they don't care. That's not gonna work. What will work is if we start building our own community, start building our own relationships with each other. We start talking to each other more. We start going to each other first. You know, you put down a blunt, put down a bottle, you know, whatever it is that you know, struggle with. And that's not even saying like to never do it again, but like if that is something that is, you know, preventing you from living an affluent life, or, you know, achieving your dreams or achieving the things that you know you need to achieve to have a better life, then yeah, you got to put it down. But anyway, yeah, it's about to be 30 minutes. I don't want it to be too long because I didn't really like this book, quite frankly. But shout out to Cheryl. I have love for all my fellow black, so-called black writers and authors out here. So yeah. Let me read this last quote. Meanwhile, black people do not crave integration, although we support it. What seems to matter most to us is not living in a well-integrated neighborhood, but having the same access to the good things in life as everyone else. I think that is perfectly okay. You know? I agree. I agree. Anyway, yeah. By chance.